What do you say, everybody? Welcome to Monday Night Quarterback here on the BamaInsider YouTube channel. We really appreciate you guys as we talk Alabama. Probably going to talk a lot more Alabama Ole Miss than Alabama Austin Peay in this week on the show today. Might as well be a game, right? But before we get into anything else, like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Be part of this channel. 80,000 plus subscribers. You guys have made this the number one channel in collegiate sports. And we're just going to keep on trucking, man. We appreciate you guys being a part of it. Hit the bell so you know when we're live. And now that we're part of On 3, we want you guys to be part of On 3. The world of team coverage has changed. Game changer, man. New world order of team coverage sites. And we've got so many great people part of this. And that's why we're throwing you this deal right now. $10 gets you an entire year on BamaInsider.com. You get Clint Lamb's coverage, the team coverage with Jimmy Stein. They're on the message board all the time. Andrew Bone, Joseph Hastings, who's going to be on the show, hitting up the recruiting. So take advantage of it, or $1 for 4 months. If you're not sure, maybe you're on one of the other sites. Hey, listen, man, I'm telling you, this is where you want to be. And it's just started, and it's just getting bigger. There's some more really mega things in the future. Make sure that you take advantage of this now. Because when everything starts hitting, you're going to be like, man, I should have just paid. I could have got this for $1. Now I got to pay $10. And eventually you're going to have to pay that more per month. So you might as well get on now while you can. And the other thing, before we talk Alabama, show's brought to you by our friends at Westgate Luxury Condominiums. That's right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. WestgateAL.com. I saw in the comment sections Friday that one of our friends was like, hey, man, I'm going to be staying in Unit 605. I'm renting it, and I'm taking you up on this, Mick. I want to know what you think. Oversized balconies. They got 1 to 5 bedroom units. Maybe you want to invest in property. Maybe you just want to visit town and you want to do it the right way. The parking's amazing. Right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. Right next to the Strip. Walk of Champions. Everything that's going on in campus and in Tuscaloosa, you're there at WestgateAL.com. All right, let's bring him on the show. You see him there, and you know him from BamaInsider.com. Really great to see you, Clint Lamb, man. How's it going?
It's going pretty good, Mick. Always good talking a little bit of football with you, so glad to be here, man.
Yeah, glad to see you again, my brother. All right, well, let's get into this right away. Alabama and Ole Miss, and your thoughts on what turned out to be another close win, another close game, and a win on the road against the Rebels.
It's funny because if you would have told probably a lot of Alabama fans that this was going to be the final score, you might have, heard some disappointment because it feels like from a score perspective, it was more of the same. But at the same time, I think based off of how things started and where things were trending in the first half, I actually think that a lot of Alabama fans are at least somewhat pleased with the way that they were able to turn things around. Because I got to be honest, I thought it was a tale of two halves, because in the first half, it felt like that this might have been the worst we've seen Alabama play. Like we've seen them, play some poor football, right? I mean, Texas, it looked bad, obviously, especially on defense against Tennessee. But as far as just guys not putting forth a whole lot of effort, as far as mistakes are concerned, getting physically dominated on what felt like both sides of the football, it didn't feel like things were trending in the right. And I don't know about you, but it kind of felt to me like, okay, they have actually given up on the season. And then, you're
talking about after that punt thing that they did.
Yes, that's where really everything came to a head. And right. I thought, man, this is, it's unfortunate, but this is what looks like it's happening. And then from that point forward, there were some things that kind of shifted the momentum, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that. And it almost seemed like they were able to get things together, not just to a point to come back from 17-7 down and win the football game, but also this might be the most, back to being normal Alabama that we've seen from them. They weren't mistake-free from that point forward, but I really feel like on both sides of the football, they started to be the team that was dominating. They had some guys, you saw a lot of effort from a lot of different players, and I thought by the end of it, they were playing pretty good football, and that was certainly encouraging because with the way things were trending, I thought it was going to go in the opposite direction.
Yeah, look, I'm with you there. I'm still just not totally happy with this team. I go back and I watch that video of Dallas Turner pushing the quarterback's head into the ground, like some of the stuff, the ripping of the football helmet, which I think was an accident.
It was. Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know, that play just really doesn't feel like Alabama football. That's Tennessee type crap right there, you know?
I mean, and I'm right there with you. And here's the thing, stop trying to physically impose your will in that kind of way, doing stuff after the play. Why don't you get it done between the whistles, right? I mean, it's like used to the old Alabama teams. They didn't feel the need to do that kind of thing because they were making sure Jackson Dart knew that, former Alabama players were there when you sacked him, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it felt like it's a different mentality. It's Henry To'o pushing the player after the play against Arkansas. Yes. It's that sort of thing. We've seen a lot of that this year, and I think that's something from a leadership standpoint and just a coaching standpoint they've got to get cleaned up because that could have been called, probably should have been called, and that would have hurt Alabama. So I understand Ole Miss fans gripe with that particular call, and it's something that Alabama players need to stop doing.
Yeah, no doubt. But you talk about the second half. And I thought Chase McClellan's 10-yard, 12-yard run to get a first down where he was just carrying guys would not go down. It reminded me of the video that they play at Bryant-Denny Stadium before the games, that pump-up video. And it's like, they throw up there like determination, like grit, and it was like that run, with Jahmyr Gibbs twisting his ankle and unable to perform. I thought that run really set the table and the tone at the same time for Alabama and the play that you mentioned in the second half.
100%. Yeah. And that's kind of what, I was hinting at before was Jace McClellan and just, Jahmyr Gibbs is a phenomenal running back. I mean, he's been everything that Alabama could have possibly wanted in a transfer and maybe a little bit more. But I think adding that more, physical type of runner once Jahmyr Gibbs went down. I mean, this is a guy that Alabama had relied on the road throughout the entire year. He was averaging almost 23 touches, almost 160 yards and 1.5 scores in their road game, their previous road games. And then, he comes out and I think he gets 7 touches against Ole Miss. He only had like 8 yards or something like that total. And it just felt like the things, this wasn't going to be one of those type of performances. Now, granted, we've seen him kind of have slow starts before and all of a sudden he rips off a couple of big gains and now he's back to those averages and he looks pretty good. But it was a tough sledding in the first half for him. And then Jace McClellan takes over. He kind of earns that workhorse role, or I guess, I wouldn't say necessarily earns, but, he was awarded the opportunity due to the injury. And I think he finished with like 20 touches, 19 of those being carries. He only had like 84 yards on the ground. He only averaged like 4.4 yards per carry. So it wasn't like he had some eye-popping, incredible statistics that we can point to and say, wow, look at this great performance. But for anybody that watched that game, I thought it was his, kind of refused to go down, turning something out of nothing mentality that really it started with the offense, and you started seeing the offensive line get a little bit of energy, start seeing them blocking better, and then just that kind of physicality and that, Alabama dominance that we've kind of seen in the past, that started to creep up a little bit more on defense. And I thought both sides of the football started playing a lot better. So was it perfect from that point forward? No, but you got to give Jace McClellan a lot of credit because I think that, with Quinshawn, Judkins or however you say it.
Judkins.
With him, I think that he was doing a lot of that for Ole Miss, right? I mean, he was running through tacklers and creating something out of nothing. And I mean, he would get tackled and it was yards after contact. And I thought that was setting the tone early for Ole Miss. Jace McClellan countered that and really gave Alabama a lot of momentum, and they played a lot better moving forward. So give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, and look, I'm glad that Bill O'Brien kept with the run, started with the run and kept with the run. I've been critical of the play calling with the lack of a run game. And even at the beginning of a game, if you struggle to run the ball, you've got to stick with it. That's been part of Alabama football for a long time. And all of a sudden this year, it's like we've drifted away from that, particularly on the road. Not this game. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why Alabama won the football game.
I really think it's why we saw Alabama look a lot more like the old Alabama for certain, right? I mean, it feels like when you've got that kind of mentality, people just assume, hey, you need these big jarring hits on the defensive side of the ball to create momentum on that side. But really, if you see the offensive guys, Emil Ikior Jr. doing what he did on that particular block, it was incredible. It was, Jace McClellan, really turning something, making momentum, changing runs, setting the tone. And then that carries over, starts giving the defense a lot more energy, and it becomes infectious, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really interesting because it's the first time we really saw that this year out of Alabama. And might be, we saw some of that from Brian Robinson Jr. last year. He's a very physical runner. was there any runs in particular where, he just pretty much, he kind of put the play on his back and really it should have been a 3 or 4 yard gain and he turns into a 12-yard gain? I'm sure there would probably be some, but it was just with where things were trending. Like I said, it didn't look good for Alabama. And I thought that some of those runs were really big and changing the entire mentality and the dynamic of the team and really helped them, get a victory. After going down 17-7, it looked like it was trending towards Alabama getting that first 3-loss season since 2010.
Yeah. Roll Tide, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Share it. Tell your friends about it. Hit the bell so you know when we're live. And in the comments section, Brianna, Chad, Keena, all you guys that are hanging out with us right now, Roll Tide, man. Thank you so much for all the great comments. Byron Young today was named the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. I thought he had his best game as an Alabama player.
Easily for me. This is the type of dominant performance that Alabama really needed from its interior defensive guys. And Byron Young also plays on the edge a ton, so it's not like he's a pure interior guy. He's more of a Jonathan Allen, type of player. But Alabama has been, trying to generate pass rush from its exterior guys. They've been getting a lot of that. I understand the criticisms of Will Anderson to some degree. Is he having the same caliber of season that he did last year? Maybe not. But he had a sack in this game. He had 5 pressures. He had, I think on this year, he's got like 8 sacks. He's more than likely, before it's all said and done, with 3 games left, he's probably going to get up there, close or over double digits. And that's a pretty good season for him. But for Byron Young, just putting up the 2 sacks, the 11 total tackles, the quarterback hurries, the forced fumble, which was huge, the pass breakup. And he also tied for a team lead with 5 pressures as well. I thought he was very disruptive, whether he was playing inside or out. He's a very difficult guy to block because, I think he's got a lot of quickness for an interior guy, but he's also very big and powerful at 6'3", 292 pounds when he's playing out there on the edge. Just that versatility and what he can do for your defense. I thought that was really big to get a big performance out of him. And obviously, it made an impact on the football game. So give him a lot of credit. He's been good all year. This wasn't like he came out of nowhere and the light finally came on. But I think that he went from being really good to great based off his performance on Ole Miss. And I'll be curious to see if he can continue to build on that. Because if he can, I think, he can really climb his way into being into maybe not first round consideration next April, but I could easily see him being an early day 2 pick.
All right, last question. Is there anything worth Alabama playing for if they're not playing for a national championship? That's the question. But the answer is hell yeah. There's the Iron Bowl in 2 weeks.
100%. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And that's a big question that a lot of people have been asking. What's the motivation for Alabama now? Because going into last week, it was still, now granted that Arkansas LSU game had just finished up as they were getting started.
So close.
Oh, it was and you just imagine, how different that game could have played out with a veteran presence like KJ Jefferson. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way things work out sometimes. Yep. And really, I kind of wondered watching Alabama struggle early in the game against Ole Miss, had someone told them, hey, Arkansas wasn't able to get it done. We're definitely not going to the SEC championship. That eliminates us from playoff contention. Because they just came out extremely flat and didn't look very motivated. And but at the same time, not only is it you've got Auburn, and that's always a big game, you still want to try to get to 10 wins. You can still do that in the regular season, not needing a bowl. And we've seen that a lot from Alabama. I want to say that the last time they didn't do that was in 2010. So want to continue that streak. It's still very impressive. And you really want to try to gain or take back control of that Alabama mentality where it doesn't matter what the scoreboard shows or your record shows. And it's all about taking the correct approach and doing things the right way. And, I think Alabama started to do that a little bit against Ole Miss, and that was very encouraging. It's a matter of can they build on that and continue to, carry it on through, Austin Peay. I understand that they're not, some world beater opponent. It's a FCS, school. That's something from a focus standpoint that has been difficult in the past, but it's all about reestablishing yourself with that right mentality that I think is really going to pay off for Alabama, not just for the rest of 2022, but as you're starting to kind of regroup and take control of 2023.
Yeah, you make a good point, man. And I'm just going to follow up before we bring on Joseph Hastings because, we didn't get a chance to talk to you on Friday, but I talked about the Alabama standard. And I just don't feel like, forget about the wins and losses. It's never been about that. I've been covering this since it started. It was always about the process. It was about doing all the little things right so that you the wins came with that. And this team doesn't do that on a regular basis. They do some things well. They don't do other things well. They're not disciplined. Sometimes you don't see effort. We didn't see it in the first half. And when you go on the discipline and the effort and, and the execution and all that stuff, it's so juggled. I feel like, and that's just my opinion, over the course of the last 2 seasons, that I think that they're going to have to go a different direction. Offensive coordinator, maybe defensive coordinator, watching the defense, with some of the stupid penalties and all that kind of stuff, slamming the guy's head down. I just feel like, honestly, Clint, I want your opinion. If Nick Saban doesn't kind of get this under control, he's 71 years old, it's going to be hard to reel it back in. And then I watched Georgia, and they've stolen our identity.
That was the goal for Georgia, right? When they hired Kirby Smart, that's what they were hoping for. And so far, that's what they've gotten. But Alabama can take it back, and they can at least, regain a lot of what they've lost on that front. And I agree with you on the coordinators. I think anybody that's followed my work, they know that I've defended Pete Golding over the last several years. I've defended Bill O'Brien. I think there were some things last year from an offensive line standpoint that really handcuffed what he was able to call or do. Mm-hmm. This year, there are some limitations at receiver, sure. But, one thing that you can't deny is no matter what you want to say or how you want to defend them, the product that you're getting on a week-to-week basis just isn't living up to the standard, especially defensively. I mean, this was supposed to be a historically good defense. It had all the makings for it. And there just hadn't been a whole lot of times this year that Alabama has needed a big stop, that they've gotten it from their defense. Yep. And I think that's really concerning. So I think moving forward, there was a time with Jalen Hurts early in his career going into 2017 after a year of starting, where you go back and you would watch the actual game, against Florida State. And even though he didn't have a great statistical output, there were justifications for it. And I really defended him back then. But then as you continue to watch the season progress, you would go in on an individual game basis and you could come up with those excuses, I guess you would call them for them. But at the end of the day, it's just the product that you were getting from him. For whatever reason, you just weren't, it didn't look as good as it did with Tua Tagovailoa out there. So you had to stop defending it and just say, this is what it is. And, it's the same thing with the defense and the offense this year. As much as I could come up with from why it's happening, that standpoint, the bottom line is they aren't getting the job done for whatever reason. And I think at this point, you can't, keep hoping that they're going to be able to become what you want them to become. I think it's time to move in a different direction. I don't know if they will, but, I think that is a real possibility.
Awesome. Well, I feel the same way. And we'll get together again on Friday for the Tailgate Show. Great to have you back, my friend. What are you working on, and what can people expect from you, and where can they find Clint R. Lamb?
Yeah, you can catch me over at BamaInsider as far as my written work, the Talking Champions message boards. Great conversations going on over there. I had to take a little bit of a hiatus, a little bit of time off for some personal reasons, but back over there contributing, getting some great conversation going to the snap count observations for the offense. For that Ole Miss game, now I'm doing the defense as soon as I hop off of here, and we'll continue the conversation. So you can find me over there. And Mick, I appreciate you having me back on, and I look forward to talking to you on Friday, brother.
Yeah, good to see you, bro. Great to have you back, man. Thank you so much. All right, that's Clint Lamb. I'm ClintRLamb.com. Always doing a great job. And really one of the best times I have as a broadcaster, just hanging out with Clint right here on the show. Talking about hanging out, let's bring him on. Joseph Hastings. He's the guy that is combing the sidelines, in the stands, wherever an Alabama recruit might be. He's there checking them out, and he's on our show every Monday night. What is going on, my friend? How you doing?
Mick, I'm doing excellent today. How about yourself? How's everything going?
Look, I'm pumped, man. I mean, I don't know if it's because Alabama won the game on Saturday or whatever, but the show couldn't get here fast enough. I mean, I know that there's no national championship for this team, but there's a game in 2 weeks that I love, and I can't wait to see it. So I guess I'm just kind of building up Thanksgiving, and then dessert hopefully will be Alabama stomping on Auburn. I mean, I hope. And I think a lot of us that are on the message board right now and watching the show feel. If you feel the same way, give me a roll tide and give me a thumbs up on Monday Night QB, hanging out with Joseph Hastings.
Absolutely, and it's so weird because Alabama's in a position that they're typically not in, where they're not really playing for anything. You do have the Iron Bowl coming up, like you mentioned, and a bowl game, a New Year's Six bowl game potentially. But Alabama, the standard is to win a championship. It's to make it to the playoffs and win a championship. So it's really interesting seeing them not being in that position. But you gotta love the way that they looked on Saturday toward the end of the game against Ole Miss. I mean, this team could have easily folded with the Rebels driving it down and getting it to their 14-yard line, but the defensive stop there at the end. Just how the offense was able to bounce back after starting off, after the team started off a little bit sluggish. It definitely gives you some encouragement, as you try to build upon this year, the end of this year, and then into next year.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Well, look, there's a big game, 2:30 in 2 weeks on Saturday called the Iron Bowl. So there's still something big to play for. We just talked about that. But let's talk about recruiting. Right now, Alabama is still rocking the #1 recruiting class. One guy that they're trying to get is a guy who originally was supposed to be next year. Now, all of a sudden, he's this year. Desmond Ricks, 5-star defensive back, and they're in this battle with LSU. What's the latest?
Yeah, so it's always interesting because I'm here in Gainesville. You can kind of tell by my brother's setup in the background here. I'm in his room. And I was able to stop by Florida's game against South Carolina on Saturday, and I saw Desmond. And we talked a little bit after the game. He doesn't want to do any interviews until he commits on December 23rd, which totally respect. So some prospects, when they're in that position, they just don't even acknowledge the media. So I appreciate him doing that. But he told us, told a couple media members that he changed up his Alabama visit plans than what was previously reported. It was initially expected that he would be in town for the Iron Bowl for an official visit, and that would be his only visit to Alabama of the year. From that point on after his reclassification. But now he's going to be taking an unofficial visit for the Iron Bowl. He's going to be returning to Alabama a couple of weeks later for an official visit. And that's really important when you look at LSU and how they've been trending in his recruitment. They got him on campus for their win over Alabama. They'll be getting him on campus for an official visit the weekend before he signs. So this was actually really critical for the Crimson Tide to get Desmond Ricks on campus a couple of times before he signs. I put Alabama at second right now behind LSU. Florida's probably third. I think they're pretty close to Alabama in terms of where they stand in his recruitment. But this one's going to come down to the wire, in my opinion. I know it says 84% right now on the on-3 recruiting prediction machine, but Ricks loves Alabama. There's obviously a true need for him there in this class, especially with the Crimson Tide striking out on Cormani McClain, not really knowing what's going on with Malik Muhammad, a couple of other cornerback targets. They're not guaranteed to land. So, there's a real big need for him. There's a possibility of him starting next year if he comes in and rolls early and shows what he's made of. So, yeah, I think Bama's got a shot here. Still leaning LSU. I think they're in a really good position getting that last official visit, but this was really critical for them.
Well, a couple other guys that everyone's wondering about is, the guys that have already committed to Alabama, but they're attempted to being poached, if that even makes any sense, by Georgia. Caleb Downs and Justice Haynes. Any update on those two?
Yeah, so they visited for Georgia's win over Tennessee. And, I think Alabama fans had a right to be concerned after that game, specifically with Caleb Downs and how Georgia was able to limit Tennessee's high-powered offensive attack compared to what Bama didn't do last month against that same Volunteers team in Knoxville. But, I don't really view Georgia as the biggest threat for Downs for Alabama's chances of keeping Caleb Downs. It would probably be Ohio State. I know they're pressing really hard for him. They would love to get him on campus for the Michigan game later this month. I think that's the one I'm really paying close attention to, Mick. That potential visit right there. To be fair to Downs, he has not spoken of any, visiting any other school. The Georgia visit kind of came up out of nowhere. Just saw him on campus. He's not giving a heads up on it. He's maintaining his commitment to Alabama, staying true to his word. And I spoke with his father. He said that he's locked in with his pledge. But, the Ohio State definitely would love to get him on campus for that Michigan game, the biggest game of the year for in college football, probably right next to that Georgia-Tennessee game. So, that would be one to pay attention to. And same with Justice Haynes. Haynes admitted a few months ago when he committed to Alabama in July that Ohio State was actually the school that finished second to him, which is interesting coming from a UGA legacy who lives right about an hour away from Athens. And his father played there. He's got a lot of connections to the program. Got offered early, prioritized early, but it was Ohio State that came out second to Alabama. So the Buckeyes are the ones I'm really watching in this recruitment. But I in my personal opinion, I don't really view either of them as likely to commit. If I was to do a mock class today, both of them are staying in Alabama's 2023 class. I think they really like what the program has done in terms of recruiting them, the structures that are in place there in Tuscaloosa, the way Nick Saban runs everything. So as long as Coach Saban's there, there's obviously there's the possibility that they're being turnover at different coaching spots. But as long as Saban's still in tow, that I really feel confident about their chances of sticking out with their pledge in this class.
So we shouldn't be freaked out by the recruiting machine that says that even though he's committed to Alabama, he's 95% going to Georgia.
Yeah, I wouldn't read too much into the on-three recruiting prediction machine with Justice Haynes. I don't think it's 95%.
There it is. Look at that. 95.5. I mean, what is that? That's our radio affiliate in Coleman, Alabama on Saturdays if you want to listen to the BamaInsider tailgate show.
Yeah. Do not be concerned about that number there. I actually think that number is indicative of where people thought he was going to be going, or where the machine thought he was going before he committed to Alabama.
Okay.
So like Chris, if you pull up Suntarian Perkins, the Ole Miss linebacker commit, this is for the audience to see how it works. This is where it'll tell you if we believe that they're going to flip or not. So you see on his profile, it says Ole Miss, and then it has that that changing. So It has that changing icon to Alabama. That's when you see that it's going to be a flip. They're predicted to flip. So according to the recruiting prediction machine, Alabama has a 94% chance of flipping Suntarian Perkins. So focus on that 95% number, not the Justice Haynes one.
Hanging out with us on the BamaInsider YouTube channel, talking Alabama football, Monday Night Quarterback, 7 o'clock Central. We do this every single Monday. We appreciate all you guys being here, hanging out with us. Like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Joseph Hastings and I'm Mick Gillispie, Chris Daughtry behind the scenes. Talking recruiting, Jimmy Stein coming up next. We're going to get into Alabama. I'm going to ask him about bowl game predictions and some other great topics. But let's talk about the Iron Bowl. I got into it with Clint Lamb on a playing side. Give me the recruiting side of this. What visitors are going to be in town for the Iron Bowl, or at least who's scheduled to be there?
Yeah, so it's as important of a weekend for Alabama recruiting as it gets. As we head down the home stretch, you're going to have Arian Carter, Memphis linebacker commitment in town. You're going to have Tyler Scott, former Arkansas State commitment, in town for an official visit as well. Jaron Hamilton, Alabama's top remaining target at wide receiver in the 2023 class. He'll be in town for an official visit. We mentioned Desmond Ricks before, supposed to be an official, now going to be an unofficial. Tony Mitchell, Jaleel Hurley, couple of Alabama commitments expected to be, in town that weekend for an official visit. And that's going to be huge. You want to get your commitments, as many pledges in town as possible to recruit those targets for the Crimson Tide. And it's highly likely that James Smith and Quay Rousseau, the coveted duo out of Carver High School in Montgomery, Alabama, it's highly likely that they're going to be, there as well. Alabama and Auburn, probably the top two schools in their recruitments. You look at Kelby Collins taking an official visit there too. He's committed to Florida right now. Mm-hmm. That one's a little bit of an interesting visit because Kelby initially had it planned for the Texas A&M game. Now he's got it for the Iron Bowl, but he previously in August had said he was looking to take his official to Bama in December. So I think that's one to watch out for. It could potentially get tweaked like Desmond Rick's visit was to make it in December. And then you got Ruben Bain there, a top defensive lineman in this class. He's listed as an edge, but he's a defensive lineman target for Alabama. And he's also considering Auburn, out of Miami, considering the Hurricanes as well. So that's going to be a crucial visit. Look, Mick, this is such an important time for Alabama. The 2023 class is winding down. Roughly 5 weeks away from the early signing period, which starts on December 21st. It's just a massive, massive, massive time for the Crimson Tide. And, look, you see that they have the number one class right now, but obviously some fans are concerned. What if Caleb Downs and Justice Haynes flip? What about Tony Mitchell? We know he's visiting elsewhere. Should there be concern about other commits? Are we going to land the 5-star targets that we're still looking to get? That Auburn weekend's going to be a crucial indicator for the Crimson Tide and how the rest of this class plays out.
We'll talk to you again next Monday about all this, but who are you going to see this week?
Yeah, so I'm actually deciding between two prospects this week, Ruben Bain and Damari Brown, both out of South Florida. That's kind of in my wheelhouse there. So I'm deciding which playoff game I'm gonna see. I'm gonna probably choose the one who has the highest likely outcome of losing this week, which is kind of a weird way to put it, but so I can see the other one next week. So I'll be seeing both of them over the next couple of weeks, getting some videos, talking with both of them. They're obviously two key targets for the Crimson Tide. Damari Brown, a cornerback target, and Ruben Bain, a defensive end target. So very much looking forward to getting back out on the road and in the stands.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Joseph Hastings, you can find all of his work. The nuggets, man, that are printed every single day on the Bama Insider website, BamaInsider.com, part of On3, $10, get you an entire year, $1 for 4 months if you just want to dip your foot in there. And we appreciate the great work. Again, my friend, tell your brother thanks for letting you in there with all the mini helmets. I like those mini helmets. Just tell him that I need a Ravens mini helmet.
Yeah, we got a Ravens one. We actually have.
Where's Ravens? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, we got the Ravens right here.
Okay.
We got the Alabama hat right here. So
nice.
Yeah, he's doing a good job with the collection.
Okay, your head was blocking the Ravens, but
yeah, got it right here.
I see the Skins behind you, but I didn't see the Ravens. I saw the Eagles who are playing tonight. Yep. That's actually tonight's matchup. How about that?
Yeah. I actually put it that way purposely. But yeah, we do that for every game. Every game we try to do that.
Awesome. Well, Joseph, always great stuff. Thank you so much, man.
Mick, thank you so much for your time. Take care, man.
You too. See you next week. All right, it's Joseph Hastings, part of our Bama Insider team, covering recruiting every single day, and some great stuff. Hey, guys, bringing Jimmy Stein on here in just a second, but like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up as we talk recruiting on the Crimson Tide, on Alabama, man. I mean, as everything moves forward, we're going to get into recruiting. We're going to talk about football, all that right here on Bama Insider.com and on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. We got the Crimson Tide covered top to bottom on Monday Night Quarterback. So like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, hit the bell so that you know when we're on. And again, comment section, Roll Tide, Curtis, thank all of you guys. Matt, for getting in there and talking. Matt, you say, is anyone else worried about Auburn? No. I mean, I'm worried about the game because it's the Iron Bowl, but if the team plays like they did in the second half, could be one of these. Give me some popcorn, just sit there and watch Alabama. Now, Auburn's going to be fired up. Look, it's the Iron Bowl. They could make their whole season in one win. But look, Bama hasn't struggled really at home. I mean, with besides the fumbles against Texas A&M, I think they're going to be in good shape. But let me ask this guy what he thinks. Jimmy Stein, I call him the dean of the Bama Insider channel. The guy's been covering Alabama for a long time and gives us a great perspective each week. Jimmy, how's it going?
Going well. I'm in the midst of the big moving this week, moving the house. So it's been a little bit busy. Could have used some help from J.C. Latham and Tyler Steen, Emil Ekiyor, Javion Cohen, Seth McLaughlin. But I guess they've been busy this week. So
yeah. Well,
it's been a little old me.
This is a good week to grab them, though. Austin P week, right? So, I mean, no disrespect to Austin P, but disrespect. I mean, they're not going to compete. I mean, this is one of those games that people pay for in their ticket package, and they're going, why is this even in here? Why is this valued? I complain about these games all the time, but the next game is exactly why you get your ticket package, the Iron Bowl. We'll get into that in a minute, but let's talk about the Ole Miss game, Alabama against Ole Miss. To me, it was, more of the same. I mean, really tight games on the road and in an NFL style road schedule this year at Texas, at Tennessee, at Arkansas, at Ole Miss. And then before that at LSU, they end up 3-2 on the road in the NFL. That would have been great. No other team in the SEC played a tough schedule on the road, anything close to this. But unfortunately for Alabama, the 2 losses eliminate them from the playoff race. What did you think of the game?
I was really pleased with how Alabama played, particularly in the second half defensively. But you were just talking about the schedule, Mick. Coach Bryant used to say that it took 2 things to win a national championship: injury luck and schedule luck.
Yeah.
And Alabama's injury luck hasn't been great this season because of the quarterback, frankly, missed really 2 games and has been playing banged up, isn't able to practice, and just now sort of almost getting back to normal. But the schedule luck has been worse. And by that, I mean, it's a tougher schedule than I think any Alabama fan imagined all summer long. I don't think in March, April, May, there was much of a discussion, Mick, that Alabama was playing one of the toughest schedules in the whole country. But the fact of the matter is it has been. I think this morning on ESPN's Strength of Schedule, ESPN measures this stuff as well as anybody. Alabama's strength of schedule, I think is 6. It might have been 4th, but 4th to 6th, somewhere in there,
right,
among the toughest schedules in all of college football. Now factor in that the best teams you've played are all on the road, and you just went over them all, Mick. But I don't know that anyone would have survived that schedule unscathed. I'm not making an excuse for Alabama. I'm not saying that they played great on the road. I'm just saying that I would enjoy to find out if maybe an Ohio State or a Michigan would have survived unscathed at Tennessee, at Arkansas, at Ole Miss, at Texas, at LSU. I mean, how would Clemson have done? How would Georgia have done against that road schedule? So Coach Bryant said you need schedule luck and injury luck. I'm not sure Alabama's had either this season, but they did pull out a good win at Ole Miss. I don't think Ole Miss, to be honest, I don't think Ole Miss is as good as Tennessee and LSU. They're a good team. I don't think they're as good as those two, but they were ranked 11th for a reason. Mm-hmm. And to go into number 11 and win on the road again, how many top 20 teams would be able to pull that off? How many top 10 teams could just stroll into number 11 and win, particularly when you're getting, their best shot? And they do have some dudes. Alabama's still able to pull it out despite Jahmyr Gibbs hurting his foot, in the game. Bryce still not really himself. But nevertheless, another big road win for Nick Saban.
Yeah, look, big road win for Nick Saban. I still feel like, though, Jimmy, that this, and I talked about this with Clint, I just don't know that this team right now is living up to the Alabama standard. They played to that standard in the second half, but they certainly didn't in the first half. At Tennessee, at Texas, these road games, against Texas A&M. I mean, I know part of it is that the bar is so high, it really is hard to get to it. But at the same time, that's the expectations that all of us have, not just us, but Saban and the players and, the world of college football. Are you concerned at all that this is going to continue next year?
Yes. Yeah, sure. I think we all should be. I think the reason that we should be is that Nick Saban is concerned about that, and the coaching staff and the players. Everyone should be concerned that there's slippage and that the team hasn't played to the standard. And it's fine for the fans to be concerned. I would just encourage all fans to be a little more maybe constructive in the criticism and not maybe destructive. But yeah, I think everyone should be concerned, but concerned not in a way to, hey, let's all light the matches and get the tiki torches burning and let's march the streets. I don't think it's that at all. I just think it's, hey, the team didn't perform to expectations. Let's not make this a habit. Let's see if they can improve. And maybe Alabama can. I'll give a little microcosm of that, Mick, is a big question this offseason was the offensive line, right? The offensive line wasn't very good at all last year. Gave up, I think, a crazy number of sacks, almost 40, which is nuts considering how mobile the quarterback was a year ago. And still almost gave up 40 sacks and had all sorts of issues. And then lose the best player on the offensive line to the NFL draft and Evan Neal. So one of the questions we tackled all year on BamaInsider, on the message board, and on various shows, that we have like this, Mick, one of the questions was, how can Alabama's offensive line improve despite losing your best player to the NFL and Evan Neal? Well, the fact is Alabama did improve. I know that people are still frustrated to some extent with the offensive line, But you know how many times Bryce been sacked this year? Like 9 times.
Right.
9. Last year was like 40. The run game, while I know it's not consistent, while I know it needs to be better, I think everyone knows it needs to be better. But as of like 2 weeks ago, Alabama's run game led the entire nation in yards per carry. So it hasn't been a disaster, to say the least. You know, Gibbs has had a good year. McClellan looked good in the second half. So the offensive line did improve despite losing its best player. I think this year, Mick, this offseason, the challenge is greater. And the challenge is, how can the entire team improve despite losing a Bryce, despite losing Will Anderson, despite losing Battle and Helms and maybe very likely Gibbs and the long list of players that we suspect will enter the NFL draft. But the offensive line improved despite the loss of its best player. I think the whole team needs to do that this upcoming year. But as far as the standard slipping, it has slipped. But what I would like for fans to keep in mind is this: like maybe, you know, at one point Alabama's Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan set a certain standard his career, and it's like we all drove to the game together, and Jordan only scored 32 with 9 rebounds and 7 assists, and we're like, gosh, come on, Michael, man, where's Michael?
Yeah, right.
But he did score 32 with 9 rebounds and some assists. And I'm just saying, there's been 2 losses to top 10 teams on the road by a collective 4 points. Only 5 teams in college football have scored more points than Alabama this season. The road schedule has been just absolutely brutal. There has been some really gutsy wins, including last weekend when the defense had to step up, Mick, and make a play at the end, and they did, just like the offense made plays at the end to beat Texas. So there has been a lot of good with the bad, and if this was a season where there's a 12-team playoff, and that's coming really soon, Alabama's in the playoffs. It's kind of strange that, you know, that this season with the level of, you know, angst over how the team has played, it's a playoff-worthy team about, I don't know, 18 months from now.
Yeah, look, I'm not disagreeing. I think Alabama wins the national championship if they make the playoff. And if they don't, then it comes down to it. There's no dominant teams. I've seen Georgia. Alabama can beat Georgia. They know how to beat Georgia. They're the last team to beat them. Then they would have beaten them twice had they not lost both of their wide receivers. But I guess what I'm saying is, and I know that they lost a couple games by, 4 points. It's that all these games are close. They had to kick a field goal to beat Texas. They had to hold on for dear life against Ole Miss. Last year it took overtime to beat a bad Auburn team, like the Florida game. Like it's a trend. I mean, it's here now. And I guess what I'm saying is that I feel like Nick Saban is Michael Jordan. Is he going to be able to, I think, and Clint and I just talked about this. I think that it's going to take shaking up the staff a little bit. But I think he needs to go back and find people that understand what the Alabama standard's all about. Maybe if he could get, a Jeremy Pruitt, which I don't know that that's even going to be allowed. But, somewhere along the line, Jimmy, I just feel like if they don't find the right people soon, we're going to be looking at this same scenario every year.
Well, I do think that there's very likely to be changes on the staff. And I'm not saying that because I've got some sort of like super scoop, or I talk to sources close to Coach Saban who say that. I'm saying I fully expect there will be changes. And I can use as my reasoning for that, there's changes almost every year. It's very unusual that Alabama actually brought back both coordinators this season. That's unusual. So the idea that it would happen again just doesn't speak to the history of what's happened under Coach Saban. So my guess, and I'm just guessing, my guess is there will be a new offensive coordinator. There will be a new defensive coordinator. And I think, I don't want to use the term rebuild because I don't think that's applicable. I think it's more reload. But I think new ideas, new excitement, new enthusiasm, a new way of doing things to some extent. there will be a lot of new faces. That can be a good thing. Alabama stockpiled several highly rated recruiting classes in a row. You got the transfer portal. You know that Alabama's going to be active in that again in terms of bringing in new guys. So I'm going to be pretty optimistic myself that this upcoming offseason, as usual, because Coach Saban's such a good bet. I get a lot of the angst. It's true. Everything you said is true, Mick. There has been a lot of close games over 2 years, not just this one season, over 2 years.
Yeah, 2 straight years.
Yeah, it's been more close games than what we're used to seeing. So I get the questioning. I get the angst. I'm not blind to it at all. I'm just saying, don't sell Nick Saban short. Don't sell the talent level that is available, that is still going to be on the football team next season. But hey, there's still some exciting stuff this season for real. Obviously, Austin Peay is a money game for Austin Peay. That's what it is, and it's a chance for Alabama to sort of get healthy and hit a reset button before the big games at the end. And unfortunately, that's not going to be a postseason. But Auburn is a big game, and Auburn's actually going to come in believing they have a chance to win the game, which is interesting because I don't think 3 weeks ago that was the situation, but it is now. Auburn's going to come in believing they have a chance to win. And hey, a bowl, right now, today, Mick, the bowl projection that I believe in is Alabama versus Clemson in the Orange Bowl. And who says that's not a postseason? Alabama versus Clemson sounds like the postseason. I'll go this far. I think a couple players on the team, Mick, that might in their heads be thinking, I don't know if I'm going to play in that bowl game. I think I'm going to opt out and prepare for the draft. As soon as it's official that it's Alabama versus Clemson in the Orange Bowl, I think there might be a couple of kids at least on the team that say, you know what? I'm not missing that. I want to play Clemson in the Orange Bowl. That's a big deal, and I'm going to do it. So I'm excited about the possibility that could happen.
Yeah, look, you just got to my last question was, what you thought. So you think Alabama and the Orange Bowl, Clemson obviously would have to win the ACC to get there. Right. Any chance that Alabama could slide into the Sugar Bowl?
Yeah, a very good chance, actually. Very good chance. I think to some extent it's going to depend on what happens with Tennessee, Mick. I think the Sugar Bowl, hey, look, let's be honest. What they did at Tennessee this year has been fun for the Knoxville folks, for the Tennessee fans. They haven't won in a long time. They're either going to be in the playoff or just outside of it. And even if they are just outside of it, Mick, and they end up in New Orleans, I think the Sugar Bowl would love to have that orange wave of fans come into town. I just think that if Tennessee is available, that makes sense, and that would push Alabama to another bowl. But if Tennessee is in the playoff, which is very, very, very possible, I would even say likely, Mick.
Right, I think it's likely.
Yeah, I think if Tennessee's in the playoff, then Alabama has an excellent shot at that Sugar Bowl against maybe a TCU. And, boy, what a contrasting style. I'll be in some level of panic all through December, Mick. Actually, TCU plays a style very similar to Tennessee with a quarterback very similar to Tennessee's and with probably a handful of Alabama players not playing in that game. Boy, what a challenge.
So you don't think TCU is going to make the playoff? You got them losing at some point.
If Tennessee's in, if Georgia's in, Ohio State, Michigan winner in, I'm just saying, I do believe, this is just my opinion, I think TCU is going to lose down the stretch. They got 2 more regular season games. I think both are losable. And then, of course, the Big 12 championship game. If TCU is a Sugar, another potential Sugar Bowl team for Alabama be Kansas State, Oklahoma State. I think those are possible. But hey, if you're asking me just right now, where is Alabama going to be in the postseason? Who are they going to play today? I would bet all the way up to $1 that it will be Clemson
in the Orange Bowl. Yeah, see, I've thought about this. They were asking me on Saturday night, and I said, well, maybe the Citrus Bowl, and then after everything kind of shuffled out the way that it did on Saturday, and I saw that you posted that, and I went and looked at it, and I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense now. As long as you beat Auburn.
Right.
You're 10-2. I personally, Jimmy, because we live so close to New Orleans, I would kind of wish it was the Sugar Bowl because I could drive over there and drive back. It would be an easy trip.
Noon kickoff this year.
Yeah, perfect for me. That's perfect for me. I love that idea. But well, it's even if here's the other scenario. If Tennessee and Georgia both make it, they could still take LSU with 3 losses, right?
Oh, absolutely. And hey, here's one thing that's changed. I'm not exactly Beano Cook or Kirk Herbstreit when it comes to this stuff.
Beano. I heard that name in a long time.
How about that? Now, I think in the old days, and by the old days, I mean, 10 years ago, because that's how quick college football changes. In the old days, the bowl game itself, invited certain teams, the Sugar Bowl people, right? And I think a big driving factor back then was, okay, who's going to bring a lot of fans to town? Who's going to fill up the hotels? Who's going to fill up the stadium? Who's going to be excited to be here? And what fan base do we want to invite? Because we need to sell tickets. We need to sell, restaurant meals and hotels and sell gasoline at every convenience store in town. Who's that going to be? Well, now let's fast forward to 2022. I think it's all about TV. I think now it's television. And I think TV and ESPN and ABC, same deal there. But whoever's putting the game on TV, they have a bigger say in who's in these games than what happened in the old days. And now I think it's about eyeballs on televisions. And,
really?
And I think Alabama is a really, really big TV draw. And let's be honest, if we're going to be totally honest, I'm not sure Alabama fans, other than me and you, Mick, we're an hour, we're 2.5 hours down the road. We're going, right? If it's in New Orleans.
Easy.
Yeah, because that's easy for us. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not sure Alabama fans would fill up that dome like Tennessee fans would, and certainly not LSU because it's in their backyard. But Alabama's going to draw eyeballs to TV screens. And that might rule the day in 2022 more than it would have in 1982.
Yeah, look, and I guess the last thing we're going to talk about is because of the comment section. They don't want to talk about the bowl game tonight. They want to talk about the Iron Bowl.
Right.
Auburn stinks. If Alabama plays their game, they're not going to lose. I watched the Texas A&M game. There were 2 terrible teams. It was like a pillow fight. But I guess after last year's Iron Bowl, who knows what to expect. I mean, I know Cadillac's got those guys kind of, playing with a little more energy than Brian Harsin, but is this a game that we should be worried about?
Only in this one sense. Auburn, 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have believed Auburn would run through that tunnel in Bryant-Denny believing they had any chance to win that game whatsoever. I think Coach Carnell Cadillac Williams has Auburn believing that they can win. And I think that means a lot. When you come in, the start to the game would be big. Let's be honest. What game this year has Alabama played that would lead anyone to believe for sure that Alabama would blow out any, quality football team?
Right. But they haven't played a lot of bad. I mean, even when they played Texas A&M, they weren't where they are now. I mean, they've still. I mean, I don't know. Auburn's there with Vanderbilt and Texas A&M and Missouri. I mean, that's some. Alabama didn't get the luxury of playing these bottom feeders this year.
That's true. Hey, my prediction, I'll just say right now. Now, I want to see what happens this weekend. And by that, I'm not talking about Alabama versus Austin Peay, but I am talking about Auburn versus Western Kentucky. I mean, I want to see what happens in that game before I make a real prediction. But for right now, my early thoughts, because obviously you get asked a lot, what's your prediction on the game? Right now, my prediction would be Alabama scores a lot and Auburn scores very little.
Yeah, and that's normally what happens every other year when the game's in Tuscaloosa. Why couldn't they have one of these crap years when we got to play there? Where they fire their coach and, they got a former player in there and he's running around, and it's a clown show.
We talked about the schedule luck, right? We talked about everything. That would be a great example of schedule luck. Play at Auburn this year. But,
Right. Yeah. No. We play there when they have a chance and they almost beat us or they do beat us. So anyway, all right, Jimmy, great to talk to you. Everyone wants to know, where are you moving?
well, then everyone be pleased to know Tuscaloosa, actually.
Really?
Well, and just for now, we'll see. We'll see where, but we're going to be in Tuscaloosa for just a little while anyway. And by a while could be a couple months, could be
Going back home to T-Town, huh?
back to school. I'm going back to school. Now, I'm not really going back to school, but in my head, I'm going back to school. That's what I'm looking at. I'm Thornton Mellon without the money.
Yeah,
Thornton
right.
Mellon, back to school.
Yeah, Rodney Dangerfield. No one knows what you're talking about, but maybe if you do the triple Lindy at the pool, and everybody will be like, "Whoa, this guy!" You know.
I do that when I accidentally fall into the pool. It looks like that.
All right. Well, look, great to talk to you, Jimmy. Have a good move. I hate that you're leaving the neighborhood, but at least we'll have you up in Tuscaloosa now, closer to the action.
Yeah, you're up there. So I'm not leaving you, Mick. I'm still going to be right down the road from you.
Yeah, I'll be there every Saturday for the football games, and you can join me on the roof at Westgate Luxury Condominiums. And that reminds me, our show's brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums. We'll be there after the game on Saturday with the post-game show. It's probably going to be chilly, so I have to bundle up, but at least it'll be an 11 a.m. chilly game. And then, by the time the game's over, there'll still be daylight maybe. Who knows with the time changing and everything, but it'll be an early ending to the game. And I want you guys to all come back on and call in, and we'll talk about it just like we do after every single game. And then we'll really be building towards the Iron Bowl. Also, Jimmy's on the message board constantly. That's why he's going back to Tuscaloosa, so he can be closer to T-Town to get you guys better content for the message board. BamaInsider.com. $10 gets you an entire year. This thing is just starting to kick off. What we're doing here on On3, and we want you guys to be a part of it. Join right now. $10 for a year, $1 for 4 months. But I'm telling you, when it's all said and done, you're going to wish you were part of this if you don't join. And for those of you that have joined, and I know a lot of you have, man, thank you, and roll tide. We appreciate you for doing that. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. You'll know every time we're on, man. And give us a thumbs up. That's a way of saying roll tide. Tomorrow night, Andrew Bone and I will be on at 8 o'clock talking recruiting. And when Nick Saban and the players talk, we put all that on there. Friday, if you're in Tuscaloosa, Jimmy, this goes out to you too, 6 to 8 at Unique Bar on the Strip. It's where the old Egan's used to be. We're going to be doing the pregame show. The Bama Insider Tailgate Show will be recorded for radio play on Saturday, Friday night. So we want you guys there and come by and hang out with us. And then, again, I mentioned on Saturday, we got so much stuff going on here, and we appreciate all you guys for being on the show. Special thanks to Chris Daughtry behind the scenes, for Clint Lamb and Joseph Hastings and Jimmy Stein, and the man that makes it all happen, Kyle Henderson. I'm Mick Gillispie. Thank you, guys, and roll tide.